What if I told you this is one of the best Spider-Man stories ever? Let's dive into the entire story of your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. The first episode is titled Amazing Fantasy, where the episode begins with Aunt May's voice waking Peter up for school. But Peter gets late, so Aunt May drops him off at school because it was Peter's first day at Midtown High School. Also, in Aunt May's car, you can spot an Iron Man air freshener hanging. Now, before Peter enters school, a portal opens outside, from which an alien symbiote similar to Venom emerges. Dr. Strange is following it, and their fight causes major damage to the school. Seeing Strange, Peter refers to him as some kind of magical wizard guy. A little later, Strange captures the symbiote. Now, while talking to Nico Miner, Peter gets bitten by a spider, which had also come out of the same portal from where Strange and the symbiote appeared. Fast forward a few months, Peter starts operating as Spider-Man wearing a homemade suit. He attends Rockford High School while wearing his suit under his clothes. Peter has a crush on a girl named Pearl Pagan, who used to be his babysitter at one point. Now, once again, Peter gets late for school, but this time, he has Spider-Man's powers. So he takes out his homemade Spider-Man suit and starts swinging his way to school. But on his way, he sees some bullies harassing Harry Osborn on the street. He steps in to save Harry, and the entire fight gets live streamed. The live chat is filled with funny comments, and you can even spot a comment from Screwball. Next, we see Spider-Man chasing a stolen van. But wait, you might recognize this person. Yes, he appeared in Spider-Man Homecoming and was also present in Shang-Chi. He is the guy who asked Spider-Man to do a backflip. In Shang-Chi's bus fight scene, he was also there, but most importantly, Spidey catches the thief, which is an obvious reference to Tony Stark's Civil War video. Later at school, Peter partners up with Lonnie Lincoln for a science project. Lonnie is Pearl's boyfriend and the star rugby player of Rockford. He is academically strong and lives in Harlem, where he takes care of his parents and younger brother. Initially, Peter doesn't like Lonnie, but he later realizes that Lonnie is actually a good person and they become friends. As always, Spider-Man is busy stopping crime in the city. He even returns stolen money to a pizza restaurant, and in return, the owner gives him a pizza. At the same time, Peter finds a broken DVD player and takes it back to his apartment. Now comes the scene that we saw in Civil War, where Tony Stark meets Peter. But here, instead of Tony, it's Oscorp Industries CEO Norman Osborn, who is sitting in Peter's apartment. Now, moving on to episode 2, titled The Parker Luck. The episode begins with Norman Osborn inviting Peter to join Oscorp's internship program. Peter accepts the invitation and goes to Oscorp, where he meets a few fellow interns like Asha from Wakanda, Emma Diaz, Cho, and Jean. Dr. Bentley Whitman assigns them different projects. Later, Peter joins Dr. Carla Connor's team, where they focus on developing a self-sustaining battery. During this time, Peter gets a call from Nico and Lonnie, inviting him to a school party. However, Peter misses the party because a fire breaks out in the city, and he rushes to stop it. Here, he fights against a pyromaniac villain named Butane, who uses advanced technology to generate fire. In this crazy fight sequence, Peter ultimately defeats him by pouring water over him. After that, Peter returns to Oscorp Industries, where Norman Osborn calls him into his office. While walking through the hallway, Peter notices a large photo of Captain America and Norman Osborn. Once inside the office, Norman shows Peter security footage of him wearing his Spider-Man suit. So by the end of the second episode, it is confirmed that Norman Osborn has figured out that Peter is Spider-Man. Norman tells Peter that his secret is safe with him and that he won't tell anyone about it. Now, the next day, we see Peter with Nico, who is angry at him because she had invited Peter to a party, but he didn't show up. We all know that at that time, he was fighting the fiery villain Butane. However, Peter is still quite disturbed that Norman has discovered his identity. Later, Norman invites Peter to dinner, where Peter tries to deny the truth by saying that he is not Spider-Man and that someone must have played a prank on him, but there's no point in hiding anymore because Norman already knows his secret. Norman reveals that ever since Spider-Man saved his son Harry's life, he has been searching for him. That's why he created the Oscorp internship program, to find out the genius behind the mask, and that genius was Peter Parker. Now, Norman tells Peter that he wants to help him because he saved Harry's life. Peter appreciates his offer, but declines, saying that he wants to figure things out on his own. He questions why he got these powers instead of someone who could become the next Captain America. So Captain America is also referenced here. Peter tells Normon that he doesn't want his help because it could put him in danger as well. He also considers quitting the Oscorp internship, but in the end, Normon convinces him to stay. We see a couple robbing a jewelry store, and in the comics they are actually Speed Demon and Wrench. James has super speed and Maria has deadly blades, both of which they obtain through technology. Meanwhile, Peter's Aunt May is sorting out old things to sell, and we get a glimpse of Uncle Ben's bowling t-shirt and an old camera which Peter decides to keep. The next day, Peter and Lonnie are having lunch at school when Lonnie receives an emergency call from home. His younger brother, Andre, was caught vandalizing a building with the 110th Street gang. At the same time, Peter, carrying Uncle Ben's camera, is taking pictures when he notices Speed Demon and Wrench committing a robbery. He rushes in to stop them, but their combined combat skills, speed, and technology knock him down. Just then, Normon hacks into Peter's suit and advises him to attack their weaknesses. That's when Spider-Man notices an infinity symbol on Speed Demon's boots, similar to the one on Boutine's flamethrower. This means someone is supplying these villains with advanced technology. Peter, now willing to accept Norman's help, uses his guidance to defeat Speed Demon and Wrench. Meanwhile, Lonnie discovers that his brother is hiding with the gang. He begs them to let Andre go, offering himself in his place. The gang leader, Big Don, accepts this offer, and Lonnie officially joins the 110th Street gang. Now Peter Parker and Norman Osborn are working together. Norman Osborn calls Peter to his office and shows him a news report about the MCU's Civil War event. The news states that all superpowered individuals must register under the Sokovia Accords. On TV, we see footage from the German airport battle where Ant-Man grabs Iron Man with Bucky, Captain America, and others present. The report states that Captain America and Bucky have escaped. Norman assures Peter that he won't have to register under the Accords. Peter then shows Norman some sketches for a new suit featuring the traditional red and blue color scheme, but Norman has already designed a suit for him, yellow, blue, and red with a cape, inspired by Prodigy from the comics. However, Peter rejects it, saying, "I'm not Thor." Meanwhile, Lonnie receives a call from his gang asking him to come to their hideout because the Scorpions are invading their territory. Peter tests his first Spider-Man suit, but it doesn't work effectively. The second suit, inspired by Marvel supervillain The Beetle, also fails. Then comes the third suit, a completely black suit with wings, but it looks too terrifying, even scaring a little girl. At the same time, Lonnie is sent to the Scorpion's territory to deliver food. There, Carmilla Black, a former Scorpion in the comics, chases him. He manages to escape, but she mentions that Mac Gargan, the original Scorpion, will soon teach them all a lesson. Meanwhile, Norman expresses his frustration with the Avengers and their reckless actions. He wants superheroes who take responsibility for their actions. He tells Peter that they will make Spider-Man the next generation superhero. During their conversation, Norman refers to Avengers' gamma-fueled rampages and the rogue AI they created, clear references to the Incredible Hulk and Age of Ultron. We then see Peter in his white and blue suit, inspired by the Future Foundation suit from the comics. At the same time, we are introduced to Mikhail, Dimitri, Mila, and Roxana, four villains who rob a place, mentioning that they defeated the tracksuit mafia from Hawkeye. However, the police catch them, but Mila manages to escape. Mila then meets her supplier, who provides her with upgraded tech. That supplier is none other than Dr. Otto Octavius. Spider-Man helps the injured people and returns back to Oscorp. While entering, he takes off his mask, not knowing Harry is there. Harry sees him, and now Harry knows Peter is Spider-Man. Dr. Octopus tells Mila that he sells enhancements, not weapons. He gives her a specialized helmet. We see that Vincent Patil is working as his assistant, and he is actually the Spider-Man villain Leapfrog. Meanwhile, Harry has seen Peter in his Spider-Man suit. Instead of being upset, Norman decides to include Harry in their team. Harry offers to be Peter's dude at the desk, similar to Ned in the MCU. The next day, Peter arrives at school in Harry's car, shocking everyone because he is now friends with a huge social media influencer. Meanwhile, Lonnie is struggling because he barely attends school. His football coach and girlfriend Pearl are concerned about him, but he brushes them off, saying it's a family emergency. But he was involved in the gang. Miko discusses Iron Man versus Captain America Civil War fight. She says, "I am not an Iron Man fan, but Captain America is not right here." And we got to know that Peter is huge Captain America fan, and Lonnie again gets call from his gang that they need him, and he leaves the school. And Harry says that he wants to add red and blue color to Peter's suit. He is also an Captain America fan. Later, Mila, wearing her unicorn helmet, breaks into prison to rescue her friends. Roxana tells her she looks like Rhino, but Mila insists, "No, I look like a unicorn." They escape, but Mikhail stays behind to help Mila. Spider-Man arrives to stop them, and a fight ensues. Mila gets frustrated and attacks Mikhail, hoping to lure Spider-Man into saving him so she can take him down. Peter, being a hero, protects Mikhail and takes the hit himself. However, Mikhail surprisingly helps Spider-Man, saving him in return. Peter then removes Mila's helmet and webs her up. Both Mila and Mikhail are arrested. Before being taken away, Mikhail warns Spider-Man, "Just because you saved my life doesn't mean I'll spare you. Next time, I'll kill you." Meanwhile, a gang war breaks out between the 110th Street Gang and the Scorpions. During the battle, Big Don is about to be stabbed by Mac Gargan, but Lonnie saves him. Big Don is impressed and gives Lonnie the name Tombstone, his comic-accurate villain name, confirming that he will become a major enemy of Spider-Man in the future. At the beginning of episode 6, we see that Lonnie has become a permanent member of the 110 gang and hangs out with them, which leads to him getting kicked out of his college football team. Pearl meets him and asks about his change in behavior, wondering why he has become so different. But Lonnie doesn't tell her anything and just walks away. When he returns home, his younger brother Dre is quite angry with him and says that he should have been in that gang instead of Lonnie. Meanwhile, Peter invites Nico to hang out with him and Harry. At Oscorp, we see that Jean tries to sneak into a restricted floor, but Peter catches her and sends her back. Later, at Peter's apartment, Peter, Harry, and Nico watch some VHS tapes and decide to watch a few movies, including Janek, which is actually an Easter egg for Loki Season 2. TV agent Brad Wolfe, also known as Janek, is a Thor villain in the comics. Tomb Buster is a fictional movie that Mark Spector was watching in the mental hospital in Moon Knight. And of course, we all know about the Predator movie. At a charity gala, Norman Osborn appears, where Eleanor Bishop's name is mentioned. She is Kate Bishop's mother. Norman Osborn and Oliver Kingsworth are thanked for their help in Lagos' recovery. If you don't know, Lagos was the first town destroyed in Avengers Age of Ultron. Here, Secretary Thaddeus Thunderbolt Ross makes an appearance, saying he is happy that the Sokovia Accords have been approved. Norman asks him about the search for Steve Rogers, indicating that the Avengers are in their Civil War phase. Norman tells Ross that Oscorp has a superhuman asset and shows him a file on John Gallo, an Oscorp security guard who is actually Spider-Man. Suddenly, Norman gets a message that an unknown person has entered Oscorp's top floor. He sends Peter to investigate, leaving Nico and Harry at the apartment. Peter swings to Oscorp. Lonnie was being chased by Carmilla Black. Lonnie escapes, but Carmilla knows the location of the gang. Now Peter reaches Oscorp and sees that Daredevil is on the top floor of Oscorp's. Spider-Man tries to stop Daredevil, but Matt tries to explain that Norman Osborn is hiding something. Peter refuses to believe him, leading to an intense fight between the two. In the end, Daredevil knocks Spider-Man out. Meanwhile, at Peter's apartment, Harry accidentally reveals Peter's secret identity as Spider-Man to Nico, assuming she already knew. Norman Osborn later tells Peter that Daredevil is working for someone who is upgrading all the city's villains with advanced weapons, suggesting that Dr. Otto Octavius Doc Ock might be involved. Norman explains that he and Doc Ock once worked together, but then Doc Ock turned evil. At the end of episode 6, we see Dr. Octopus has created a metal scorpion tail for Mac Gargan, making him even more dangerous. At the beginning of episode 7, Nico is upset with Peter for keeping his Spider-Man identity a secret from her. Pearl sees them arguing and tells Peter that she understands their situation because she herself feels betrayed. Meanwhile, Lonnie prepares for a showdown with the Scorpion's gang alongside his own gang. Norman is trying to track down Doc Ock's weapons by scanning their unique energy signature. Peter suggests tracking gamma radiation instead, just like the Avengers did to locate the Tesseract. Harry tries to reconcile Nico and Peter by hanging out with her, and they both end up in a street race. The race is streamed online by a streamer named Club, which we have seen in Spider-Man: Homecoming and She-Hulk. Even though Nico was still learning to drive, she wins the race and she and Harry become actual friends, not just because Peter forced them to meet. Meanwhile, Pearl visits the 110 gang's area to meet Lonnie, but suddenly, Scorpion attacks. Mac Gargan starts beating everyone up, as his new bionic tail gives him a huge advantage. Spider-Man arrives to stop him, initially managing to web him up and rescue everyone. However, when the suit's gamma radiation affects Mac's body, he becomes even more aggressive and continues attacking. Scorpion brutally beats Spider-Man, stabbing him with his tail and completely damaging his suit. He keeps attacking until Norman Osborn sends his Green Goblin glider to rescue Peter. The glider picks up an injured Peter and brings him to Oscorp Tower. This moment gives us our first look at the Green Goblin's glider. The 7th episode ends with Spider-Man barely surviving his fight with Scorpion. In episode 8, Peter wakes up in Oscorp's experimental medical wing. Norman reassures him that no one saw his face, but Peter is worried that he failed to stop Scorpion, who is still freely roaming the streets. Unfortunately, he is in no condition to stop him now. His Spider-Man suit is completely destroyed. Peter is extremely frustrated with himself for not living up to Norman Osborn's expectations. After recovering a bit, he returns to his internship at Oscorp, where Dr. Carla Connors asks him what happened. Peter replies that he was in the wrong place at the wrong time. Meanwhile, we see that animals are being brought to Oscorp for testing, especially lizards. If you know the comics, this is a clear hint that Dr. Connors is going to turn into the lizard soon. At home, Peter confesses to Aunt May that he is scared and feels weak. Aunt May comforts him, telling him that fear is not a weakness. This scene is very emotional and heart-touching. Meanwhile, Dr. Octopus tells Vincent that he has made a deal to obtain the rarest metals on Earth. Could this mean we'll see vibranium or adamantium? Suddenly, Sword agents raid Doc Ock's lab. He takes them down using his signature octopus tentacles, then tries to escape. However, General Ross stands in his way. Ignoring him, Doc Ock keeps running until Iron Man arrives to arrest him. The Avengers theme plays in the background in a modified version. Meanwhile, Peter is still haunted by nightmares of Scorpion. At school, Nico is still not talking to him. He then sees Lonnie breaking up with Pearl. Peter tries to talk sense into Lonnie, but Lonnie has now fully pledged his loyalty to the 110 gang. Desperate for advice, Peter goes to Norman Osborn, hoping he can trust him like he trusted Uncle Ben. Norman gives Peter his own version of Spider-Man's iconic motto, "Don't run from power, embrace it. With great power comes great respect." He tells Peter to give the world a reason to respect him. Meanwhile, the 110 gang's leader meets Don Dimitri, who appears in his chameleon disguise. They discover that Doc Ock supplied Scorpion with upgraded weapons, so Chameleon gives them the address of his lab. At Oscorp, Harry tells Peter that Spider-Man should follow his own mind and not just do what Norman Osborn tells him to. He then shows Peter a new suit he designed for him. If you look at Peter Sip's glasses, you can see it resembles the classic blue and red suit from the comics. I think we Sipt are finally going to see the real Spider-Man operating on his own terms. At the start of episode 9, we see that Doc Ock has been imprisoned for violating the Sokovia Accords. However, he argues that everyone in New York has violated these accords. At that moment, Norman Osborn visits him in jail and informs him that after his departure from the company, all the weapons, documents, and gadgets seized from Ockfield Labs have been handed over to Oscorp. Enraged, Doc Ock utters his iconic line, "The die is cast," and vows revenge. Meanwhile, Don, Lonnie, and Dodger arrive outside Doc Ock's lab to take their share, but the police are already loading his belongings onto a truck. Don insists that they must steal these weapons from the police. They chase the truck carrying all the seized materials, but Lonnie doesn't want innocent people to get hurt in the process. The truck nearly hits Nico, but just in time, Spider-Man, donning his red and blue comic-accurate costume, swings in to save her. Spider-Man then notices Lonnie with members of the 110 gang. Before he can confront Lonnie, Scorpion arrives with his gang, and a full-blown fight breaks out. Seeing Scorpion again causes Peter to have a brief panic attack, but he overcomes it. He saves Don from being killed by Scorpion, after which Don abandons his gang and flees. Meanwhile, Lonnie fights Carmilla while trying to protect civilians. Dodger tells him to check inside the truck, hinting that he'll find something useful. As soon as Lonnie enters the truck, he inhales a leaked vial of a mysterious substance and loses consciousness. Spider-Man dodges Scorpion's attacks and manages to shock him briefly, but Scorpion is still ready to fight. Suddenly, Lonnie gets up and picks up a weapon to assist Spider-Man. It turns out he has gained his comic-accurate tombstone powers, including rock-hard, bulletproof skin, super strength, super speed, and immense stamina. Now Lonnie and Spider-Man team up to take down Scorpion. Just when they think the fight is over, Scorpion drops a steel beam on Lonnie. Peter believes Lonnie has been crushed under it and recalls Norman Osborn's words, "Don't hold back. Embrace your powers and stop the villains." Consumed by rage, Spider-Man starts beating Scorpion brutally and is on the verge of killing him when Lonnie suddenly stops him. He reminds Peter that people trust him and that he shouldn't ruin his image. Peter regains his composure, stops himself, and lets the police arrest Scorpion. Later, Nico and Peter reconcile, apologizing to each other. Nico acknowledges the heavy responsibility he carries as the city's hero. They promise not to keep secrets from each other, but Nico looks at her purple necklace, hinting at her hidden magic abilities. Back home, Peter is watching TV with Aunt May when he receives a call from Norman Osborn. Norman tells Peter that they recovered everything from the truck except the items damaged during the fight. On the screen, we see the name OS3, the chemical that gave Tombstone his powers in the comics. In the comics, this chemical was developed by Alchemax Corporation. At Oscorp, Norman Osborn is in a meeting discussing updates. They have categorized all the recovered items from Otto's lab, the glider prototype is ready, and Dr. Whitman reports that Peter has created an innovative magnetic generator. They are also successfully extracting unique DNA from Spider-Man's blood, which they likely obtained after he was injured during the fight with Scorpion. By the end of episode 9, it becomes clear that Norman Osborn wants to recreate Spider-Man's powers. Now in the final episode, Peter is busy fighting some bad guys before school. He rushes to school because he has to present his science project with Pearl. He arrives on time, but his project got damaged during his fight. Luckily, they secure an A- grade. Off-screen, Amadeus Cho flexes his 5.0 GPA. Then, Norman arrives to congratulate everyone, announcing that their hard work has led to the success of Project Monolith. This project aims to create a space wormhole for outer space exploration, allowing them to harness limitless galactic resources. Essentially, Norman wants to create an Einstein-Rosen bridge. He references previous instances of such gateways, Thor's Bifrost in New Mexico, the Chitauri invasion in New York, and the attack in Episode 1 that destroyed Midtown High School. Dr. Connors warns Norman that these events caused massive destruction and they should reconsider their approach. However, Norman ignores her, declaring that he wants to become as powerful as those beings whom people call gods. As the gateway is about to be opened, Dr. Strange appears and warns Norman to stop the experiment. Peter recognizes him from the Midtown High School attack, but Strange insists this is his first time here. Norman refuses to believe Strange, but Peter suggests they at least listen to the magic doctor before opening the portal. Norman disregards the warning, and Dr. Whitman activates Project Monolith. Suddenly, a venom-like creature emerges from the wormhole, and Dr. Strange starts battling it. Peter quickly changes into his Spider-Man suit while Norman flees. Strange tries to open the dark dimension to trap Venom inside, but Peter gets pulled in as well. Strange has to bring both of them back. Strange tells Peter to fix the broken machine while he keeps Venom occupied. He opens a portal, but Venom attacks him, causing both to fall through, arriving at Midtown High before it was destroyed. This explains how Strange and Venom appeared in Episode 1. Strange, using the Time Stone, has traveled to this timeline to stop Norman from using the machine. Meanwhile, the spider that bit Peter containing his altered DNA escapes from the lab and falls through the portal, biting Peter. This creates a bootstrap paradox. Strange then brings Venom back to the lab and opens another portal to send it back. However, multiple angry Venom plant-like creatures appear. Eventually, Strange and Spidey manage to send the creature back, but a piece of the symbiote remains in their world. Following the failed experiment, an investigation is conducted at Oscorp. Peter, Nico, and Harry discuss the incident, and Nico suggests that Harry should start his own company where young geniuses can work without restrictions. Later, Spider-Man meets Dr. Strange, revealing that he became Spider-Man on the same day Midtown High was destroyed. Strange tells him that everything happens for a reason and shapes us into who we are meant to be. Peter asks about the future, but Strange simply assures him that Spider-Man will be ready. In the background, we see the Watcher observing their conversation, indicating that a new hero has been born. Norman returns to his lab and sees the remnants of Project Monolith. He then notices the remaining piece of the Venom symbiote. Meanwhile, Harry establishes a new company, Worldwide Engineering Brigade. His list of recruits includes Peter Parker, Amadeus Cho, though Amadeus Cho declines his offer and prefers to stay at Oscorp, and several other young geniuses. At the end, it is revealed that Oscorp's intern Jean is actually working with Daredevil, who infiltrated Oscorp to investigate. Jean now works with Daredevil and wears her superhero outfit, revealing she's Finesse, the biological daughter of Taskmaster, who can quickly learn and master anything. We see Lonnie, now the boss of the 110 gang, with his tombstone-like granite hands. Nico uses magic to contact her mother's spirit, and Doc Ock, still in prison, is preparing to build new mechanical arms. The biggest shocker comes in the final moments. Peter's father, Richard Parker, is revealed to be alive but imprisoned. Aunt May visits him, and he asks, "How is my son?" Although there's no post-credit scene, we see Spider-Man happily swinging across the city. With this, your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man Season 1 comes to a close, but the story is far from over. Marvel has already confirmed Seasons 2 and 3. This show exceeded my expectations, and I hope the upcoming seasons are just as thrilling. What did you think of Season 1? Let me know in the comments. If you haven't watched it yet, what are you waiting for? Go check it out. You're gonna love it. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like and subscribe for more amazing content.